We battle that all the time. If we're going to offer something, we can't just say we're going to offer it there, and then if this person's a pain in the ass, we're not going to offer it there. You have to accept the fact that you're going to get the people that will milk you till you're dry, or they're not going to use it to take advantage of it.
Sales, it never changes. The mindset of the consumer is always the same, regardless of how big or how small the investment is. I'm telling you, that holds true every single time.
The reality is that consumer, that borrower, is typically going to be more rate conscious and numbers conscious. Like they have a financial planner, they have an accountant. You're having a conversation with somebody at a whole nother level.
Welcome everybody to episode 12 of Moments in Construction podcast. We have Mr. Sean Salas here from
U.S. Bank.
U.S. Bank, yeah, from U.S. Bank. And we're going to be talking about how Prawdzik and U.S. Bank collaborate together on a lot of a variety of different avenues and aspects of the whole client process when it comes to building a home. And hopefully, everybody can get some value out of it. So, Sean, tell us a little bit about yourself. Let us know what you do and how you do it.
So, as I said before, I'm like a recovering realtor, which is kind of so after like 10 years in the construction business, you guys were rattling about the elevator business, and I was standing over there laughing because that's where I got my start. And I built the stuff that I sold for about 25 years. I did about 2,000 transactions on the sales side and about $1 billion in negotiated deals with a team of 5 because I built it based on when I was in the military, I was a ranger in the Army and Special Forces, and they teach you 5 people can do the damage of 150 men. And that's kind of what attracted me to Hugo and you guys, is because your business is very similar model. It's very small, very niche, but you've got to figure it out. So after and during that kind of transition in the last probably 10 years, I was coaching mortgage people and all that stuff. And my mortgage guy came to me and said, when you're talking about real estate, your eyes glaze over. And I go, dude, if I see another purple kitchen, I'm just going to choke myself. He goes, but when you're coaching our people who are now all of a sudden, I was going to fire them, are now doing 2 and 3 times as much business. We got to pull you off the ceiling. You're so excited. Yeah. He goes, you're in the wrong business. And he goes, you need to become like a teacher. And now I kind of go by the model of, I'm a top producing loan officer at the 5th largest bank in the United States, U.S. Bank, but I'm also AKA the realty coach. So now what I do is do a lot of coaching with both the consumer and also the realtor partners, and explaining to them your process, how do I go buy a house when I don't have the cash, and who's going to build it? How do I get started? And usually that first step is me sending them to Hugo. Okay. Which is kind of fun.
So how often do clients funnel into your kind of let's say CRM or pool of people that you're?
That's a loaded question. It's as I said, I had about 2,000 people that I actually touched just about every transaction. I either sold them a house or helped them list and sell a house or buy a house. But I mean, realistically, I would say out of the 10 people that I'm working with on a mortgage or a loan of some sort, I would say probably 20% of them are doing either what I would call a one-time close loan for a renovation loan or construction. And that renovation could be like Hugo takes them out and shows me the house, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, this is the right neighborhood, the right building. It's got enough square footage, but the kitchen is horrifying, and the bathrooms are just like, there's no way my wife's going to move there. And what we'll do is, and U.S. Bank has a program where, as long as the renovation's more than $100,000, we'll actually write the loan for the acquisition. Plus, we'll give them money for the renovation. And all we really need, and in those cases, a lot of times it's direct replacement. So you don't have to go crazy getting permits and all that stuff. You're not getting variances. So we can close that very quickly. Okay. And that now all of a sudden, the realtor now has the opportunity to really go and say, hey, even though there's only 2 houses available in that town, there's 6 more that nobody wants to touch because they need work. And I have a solution for that. And now if you can, I'm a firm believer in, sales, true sales is fixing problems. If you can fix a problem, or you can provide a solution to a problem that everybody's having, like limited amount of inventory, if you could find a way to plug that hole, you could really, do the right thing.
Interesting. So how many people, I want to get to know how you guys met, because all of a sudden one day he was like, hey, I met this guy, Sean, and he started telling me about all these things and what you do and all the kind of stuff. We were really excited.
Tell you about the cigars?
Never. No, I don't know anything about how you guys met. So I'm curious, how many people are renovation versus new build in your kind of pool, or from just inquiries you get in general?
Right. So, what's ironic is that I made it a point, because I knew that that program for U.S. Bank is actually a very unique program. So instead of somebody closing multiple times, and when I talked to Hugo, I happened to call him. I think you were in my town, and I said, hey, I know that guy. Wait a second, he's the guy with all this stuff, the Halloween stuff. We started talking, and he goes,
Okay,
right,
that's a good segue.
Right. We started talking, and he goes,
Plug that up. Plug up the podcast.
right, yeah. You started talking, and he goes, I'm a realtor, and I go, okay. And he goes, but I'm also a builder, and I go, okay. I was a realtor, and I'm now the mortgage guy. And we're like, okay, let's go have a drink. And that's really what happened. Was we had a drink, and he kind of told me about which is the normal attrition for for builders and developers that are going from 0 to 5 to 50 units. The biggest thing is cash flow.
Oh yeah.
So what I actually was able to do is say to Hugo, I go, let me ask you a question. Does this sound familiar? You guys go acquire a property, or the average builder acquires the property for, in our neighborhood, what, $700,000, $800,000, $1 million in Summit for a teardown. So now you're long $1 million, and it's going to cost you another $750,000 to do the renovation of that project, and you're going to sell it for 2.2. And even though the money's all there and it all adds up, because you did the numbers and you said, hey, we can do this, you still got to front all that cash.
Hugo does the numbers.
Right.
I just go and sit down home. Like, oh, do your thing.
That number's right. Right. So, right. So what I was able to do is go to him and say, hey, listen, what if you can get 98% of your money back out before you even stick a shovel in the ground? And his eyes lit up, and so would mine. And what I've been able to do is explain to people how, instead of being long all that money as the builder developer, and whether you're the consumer or not, being able to give people options, like I said in the beginning, right? So option number one is, if you find a lot and you have an approved drawing, or you have somebody like Hugo who says, hey, I know the perfect neighborhood you want to be in, and I also know that there's a guy with a house that has an approved drawing that we could do the house for you and give you what you want, go see Sean. Okay. Well, why do I have to go see Sean? Well, instead of us fronting the cash and charging you to carry the money and charging you all that extra, Sean's going to give you the money to acquire the land and also give us the money to build the house. And you're only going to have to come up with 20% of the actual finished value of the home. So if that home is, let's say, like we talked about, 2.4, you're going to have to come up with, for argument's sake, 480. But you come up with the $500,000, and we're gonna front the cash for everything else. And here's the beautiful thing is, when you're sending them to me, or you're sending them to U.S. Bank specifically to me, I used to say this as a realtor. It's not the company that sells the home; it's the individual agent's expertise.
Yeah, of course.
And in the mortgage space, it's the same thing. Being able to have a conversation with the borrower, because let's face it, realtors, builders, and obviously builder.
Yeah,
realtor
we're together. We're Prawdzik, baby.
Right, but we speak a different language. We all speak a different language. And with us, I'm one of the few people that actually worked on both sides of the fence. So I speak like 3 languages. I speak realtor, builder, and renovation, conversation, and elevator for that matter. So, so that, I think that where we actually saw the opportunity is, we can actually help more people that are on the sideline that really can't find a house, know where they want to live, know there's opportunities there, but they're just, they're that's not, the average guy who works as a, an IT guy. Like, let's talk like, Luco, that particular guy, he's not a contractor. He just knows what he wants, and he knows the house he wants. And he said, okay, give me the plug and play solution. And he came to Hugo. Hugo said, hey, call Sean.
Yeah. How did that work out? Yeah.
So here's a great example.
Exactly like that.
Really?
Exactly like that.
Right. So he called me and he said, hey, go talk to Sean. He goes, I don't know. Go talk to him. But here's the interesting thing is, let's say, for argument's sake, on that particular house, we had to go get drawings. We had to go get approvals, right? So, well, how do we do that if you're only going to give us the loan when you have the approved drawings? And what we did with him was, we said, hey, you know what? We'll give you an acquisition loan for the land. And we're one of the few companies that will actually loan up to 60% loan to value on the land. So as long as you have 40% on just a raw piece of land, we'll give you the acquisition loan for that. And then, knowing that loan, you're only going to hold it for 2 or 3 months while we're getting the approvals, what we'll do is we'll actually increase your interest rate a little bit, so that we front load some of your closing costs, so that when we go close again on the construction loan, which is we're about to do now. So he came to us, he found the lot. Hugo said, hey, you could put this house on this lot. He said, okay, great. He went and talked to some of the architects, talked to the town, and they said, yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. We're just going to need drawings. We're going to get approvals. So in the meantime, the seller still wants to close, right? He wants their cash. So he came to me 30 days later, like 3 weeks later, we closed on the acquisition loan. And now it's about 3 months later where he's got his approved drawings and he's getting ready to close this week. And that process it's not, I love to say it's seamless. What I kind of got to the point in my career now is that I try to figure out what is the biggest problem for a seller. Getting married, getting divorced, public speaking, and having a kid, or or sending a kid to college now is what I figured out.
Finding a home,
right? Or finding a house, right? Or buying a house or selling a house. Like that. That process is right up there with all those other most stressful things in the world.
Hell yeah.
So if we can make that process seamless and make it as, I hate to say it, but idiot proof as possible.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and you guys, when I was on
That's
your
the goal.
seminar, you guys do a great job at it. You say, like, I think the coolest thing what I heard you guys say on your new construction webinar was, hey, when this is over and you move in and you bang up the walls and the guys from wherever bang up we're going to come back in and we're going to fix it.
30 days.
Well,
within 30 days, yeah.
But that tells me, and this is exactly what, by the way, getting you approved at U.S. Bank as a renovation builder and new construction builder is a big deal. We're the 5th largest bank in the United States. So that means that your process meets that standard. And what I kind of said to the reviewer, if you will, I said to Sarah, I go, listen, if you just read what they do after they close, they're running toward the customer, not away from the customer.
Of course, yeah.
Well, you say of course, but most builders, developers.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the customer's always right. I mean, listen, Hugo could tell you, and maybe Hugo could touch on this, but again, we battle that all the time. If we're going to offer something, we can't just say we're going to offer it there, and then if this person's a pain in the ass, we're not going to offer it there. You have to accept the fact that you're going to get the people that will milk you till you're dry, or they're not going to use it to take advantage of it. Because we have both ends. We have literally every aspect of that customer, right? So, again, just talking about the process, because I know you mentioned that. Maybe, Hugo, you could touch on, like, how did working with U.S. Bank help us kind of, I guess, A, acquire customers, because that's a big one, B, streamline it for them, and then C, kind of with the exit or with the whole process and building aspect of it, kind of, make your life easier and or your ability to kind of sell the project to them better. Like, because he said, like, the salesman does everything. So, so.
Yeah, I mean, listen, salesmanship definitely plays a part in it, right? But it only plays a part when you have partners that you're comfortable with, right? So at the end of the day, if you have somebody that you can trust, right? Because at the end of the day, you're making a recommendation, right? In sales, you make a recommendation, you're putting your name on that person. Whether you like it or not, that's how it's being translated to the person you're giving the information to, right? So you have to be extremely comfortable with whomever you're passing along, right? So sometimes I'll get asked for recommendation. I'm like, hey, I'll be honest with you, I'm not comfortable recommending such and such person or this trade or whatever, because I already know they could flake, they could do something at the end of the day, regardless that it has nothing to do with me, it's going to be looked upon me as something negative. So, when Sean and I met, I went in my backyard one day and he was just there and he was like, "Are you a realtor?" I'm just kidding. No, actually, the way Sean and I met is he actually.
What is binoculars in the back?
No, he actually.
He's coming.
He actually filled out a build with us form.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, that's
He
right. I
did.
remember
Scheduled
that.
a call.
I remember that.
Yep.
I remember that.
And then we got on the phone. We realized that we lived like
8 seconds away.
Yeah, like literally like a couple of minutes away from each other. And then we went out to J&R.
J&R's.
Right? That's J&R Cigars in Whippany on Route 10.
They have one in
Cigars.
premise.
It's same place.
Yeah,
Same
so
guys.
we went there.
Okay.
I hadn't been there in years, and we just started talking. I think the most appealing thing was, number one, that Sean understands the realtor side of the business as well as, right? Because sometimes people like lead with blinders, or like, this is my business, this is what I know nothing else. And when I'm able to regurgitate information, limited information from the loan perspective, and then I pass them on to a loan officer that can now regurgitate the realtor side of it or the build process, it makes me feel more comfortable, because it's not, then you're not battling the other, right? Exactly. It's like, oh, well, Sean said this. That's not correct, right? So that was the number one thing. The second thing that really made me intrigued by U.S. Bank is when we started having the conversation about what's the difference in cost to somebody in terms of an interest rate when they're just buying or using a standard conventional mortgage versus getting a construction loan to U.S. Bank, right? Because historically, a lot of the conversations that I had with lenders, it was either half a point to a point, potentially maybe a little bit more.
In difference.
in difference in
construction loan.
rate, right, on a construction loan. Because again, from the bank's perspective, I get it. It's a riskier loan, right? They got to get it backed, right? There's all these different moving parts in the background.
Hold on. Does the rate change based if you're approved or not, or like your track record with U.S. Bank?
So let me do it this way: and he's brought up a great point, which is, in a traditional sense, the person's going to go get a mortgage for the land, and they're going to go get a mortgage for the construction, and they're going to close twice because they're going to close on one and then close on the other, and then even 3 times because once they're done with the
It's a
construction,
permanent loan.
right? But in the beginning, it's going to be anywhere between 3/4 to a point more on a construction loan, and then they're going to refinance it again. And by the way, the mortgage company, in a traditional sense, gets paid each time.
Yeah, of course.
What we're doing is the bank, because we're the bank and we want to keep them as a customer and a depositor. We're making it so it's a one-time close. So unless it's like it with Luca, where we close on, and even in that case, we're going to close on 2 loans. But the funny thing is, I already front-loaded his first loan with the vast majority of his closing costs on going into the second loan up front. And he's like, well, why should I do that? And I go, because you're only going to have that loan for 3 months. Mm-hmm. And the first 2 months, you're going to build in your escrow. So you're only making 1 payment. Mm-hmm. So what do you care what the rate is?
Yeah.
So why not front load and so that's one of the big deals is instead of us, the big difference is U.S. Bank is in the business of depositors. Right.
Yeah.
Where
relationships.
If you go to any other like Loan Depot, Quicken Loans, Guaranteed Rate, and they're all great companies.
Don't they sell their notes?
Well, the thing is,
felicitator.
The way I always explain it is, I'm like, you remember the movie It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart at Christmas time? He's the guy who takes the money, gives it
Matt
from
doesn't watch movies.
Right.
Yeah, that's
He's the guy. He's the guy back in the 50s. He took the money from the one guy in the town who was the taxi driver and gave it to the other guy who owned the grocery store. To basically took his deposit and gave it to the other guy to build his house. And that's me. I'm Jimmy Stewart. There's nobody between me and the money.
Got it.
Because we're the bank and we're a depository bank, we go get the money at the Fed. Whereas Guaranteed Rate or one of those companies, they're actually borrowing our money and then lending it to you. And the funny thing is, if they only have loans on the shelf, the only way they can get paid is from the loan. Mm-hmm. With us, we almost do those loans at cost because we know we have other stuff on the shelf that we're going to be able to work with you on.
Got it. Yeah. So you were talking. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off. But
Yeah.
No.
Because you said one of the riskier things about being giving construction loans is obviously construction loans are riskier, therefore higher interest rate.
Right.
But then I figured like, okay, well, what if you have a built-up relationship with, U.S. Bank? Does that, as a builder, say, okay, well, this builder, he's built 100 loans with us. Is it really that risky because we know he's going to perform?
So what you have to keep in mind, they're not lending to us. They're lending to the individual. Number one. Number two, to answer your question, no, because U.S. Bank he just said it, right? They're giving these loans at cost because they're looking to build a relationship long term and get it off their other products. So, and then the other reason why I decided that Sean would potentially be a good fit, besides the fact that he brought up very valid points during our conversation, like getting 98% of our cash back immediately, is exactly what he just said. Like, you just see how he talks. Like, it's very strategic. Like, he's doing certain things in a certain way, so he's smart with the finance perspective, right? Saying, okay, well, I'm just going to raise your interest rate on the loan that you're only going to have for 3 months, right? And that raise in interest rate is going to cover your closing costs on your second loan because you're only going to make 1 payment, maybe.
I mean,
right?
if you just bear in mind, what's the average price of the house that you're doing right now?
1.2, 1.3, 1.4.
1.4.
Yeah, somewhere in that.
So that guy's got to make $300,000, either combined or as an individual, to carry that note.
At today's rate.
At any
whatever.
At any rate, for argument's sake. But the reality is that consumer, that borrower, is typically going to be more affluent and more rate conscious and numbers conscious. Like, they have a financial planner, they have an account, right? So you're talking you're having a conversation with somebody at a whole nother level. And because my background, I mean, I've built 50 homes as the builder owner, so I understand the process. So when I'm talking to them, I'll give you a great example of this. Guy called me yesterday and he said, hey, I have a place in Hoboken that I'm selling, and this, go figure. I'm in the car with my wife, and I said, I always joke about it. If I see another purple kitchen, he goes, we have the purple kitchen, Sean. And I go, really? And he goes, I go, you live in the Oz on like Monroe Street? He goes, yeah, how do you know that? I go, I sold like 9 of them. Dean Geibel was the builder who was waterfront management back in the day, or whatever. But he said, I have like $800,000 in cash that I told this other company I was going to put down, and I'm going to buy a house for 2.2. And I said, well, why would you do that? And he goes, well, they told me that I have to have this debt to income ratio and my reserves and everything else. And I go, well, at U.S. Bank, we're actually about to launch in October an affluent program. And this goes back to what you said. Mm-hmm. We can actually, instead of you putting up $800,000, which is almost 40% on that loan, mm-hmm. let's just why don't you put up 25%? And we can actually give you that loan with actually a great rate. And then what you're going to do is the 25% is going to be closer to $500,000. You're going to take $250 and you're going to put it into an affluent account with us, and that's going to give us the ability to reduce your interest rate by 3/8 of a point because it's what they call relationship banking.
Yeah, relationship banking. Yeah.
Right. But what's interesting is he goes, well, how come the other company didn't tell me that? I go,
because they didn't offer it. Probably
they didn't offer it. And by the way, they get paid a higher rate on the loan that they're going to give you.
Yeah.
I get paid by the bank. My goal is to get you the lowest possible rate with the least amount of stress, mm-hmm. and the best product for you for the period of time that you're going to use it. And what I kind of think of in my head, I said to him, I go, if you can get 5-8% return on the $250 you put in the bank,
then you're offsetting your interest rate.
Exactly. You're not only are we giving you 3/8 of a point, but we're also going to cover some of the interest that we're taking away from you.
Yeah.
And here's the catch. I sell you a house for $1 million, you put in 100. I sell you a house for $1 million, you put in 200. Mm-hmm. House goes up 10% in value. Mm-hmm. How much is it? $100,000.
Yeah, okay.
What's his return on his investment?
Yeah, it's
100%. What's your return on your investment? 50%. The average person doesn't think like that, though. Mm-hmm. They think of, like, if I put more money down, I'm going to save more money. No, like we have a product between $750 and $1 million, or it's 766, 51.
Doesn't that jump up?
Yes.
Yeah.
At the break point of a conventional loan to $1 million, we'll actually give you 10% down, no PMI insurance, and that's like a sweet spot in our area. Mm-hmm. And I tell them all the time. I go, save the 10%, put it in a CD.
Yeah.
Put down 10%, and by the time you go,
wouldn't you say? I'll cut you off. But wouldn't you say most people that are affluent, they're going to be like, oh well, CD, I can make double this if I just invest my money.
That's just it. Whatever you're going to do with it, but it's better than when you put money in anything more than 20% in a home. Mm-hmm. Doesn't pay. With cash, you either get interest or you pay interest, right? Mm-hmm. If you put more than 20% into the house, it just sits there. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Right. And in our case, the only reason why you want to put 20% is because you don't want to have to pay PMI. Mm-hmm. So with us, I'm saying to you, at that loan amount, just put 10% and you're still not paying PMI. Mm-hmm. And now you're going to take the differential and you're going to go invest it like you said.
Yeah.
And whether you're going to make 6% or you're going to make 12% or whatever, mm-hmm. it's a big difference.
Yeah.
And by the way, it gives the average buyer the ability to go back to you guys and say, hey, I bought this place, but I need, my wife hates the kitchen or this or that. And now you're going to have that extra cash. In some cases to buy a bigger house, or in other cases to renovate mm-hmm. what they're already doing.
Interesting. How many clients do we have now that we're working with that are U.S. Bank clients or potential U.S. Bank clients? A good chunk?
Between 3 or 4.
It's 3 or 4. Yeah.
But 3 or 4, even 5. Who cares?
I think it's. I have 4 on my books, and there's like 2 of them are in process, and I think the other ones, like Tanya is one of them that, if given her the right opportunity, she'd probably do something.
That's awesome. That's great because then again, we don't build little stuff. Our average contract is what, $500,000-$600,000.
Yeah.
Right. Some plus minus.
Yeah.
So here's
right? So some larger, some smaller.
So your brain's wired like mine as a numbers guy. No wonder I ended up out of the real estate side. Well, let me ask you a question. How many units do you guys do a year?
We're going to be probably clocked this year, probably 20, a little over 20.
Right. So 20 is 4 units out of 20. Mm-hmm. It's 20%.
Yeah.
That's a lot. It's a lot. And by the way, it's 20% where you didn't have to go buy that business. It's found money.
Yeah. It's either referral, like referral business. We all know in real estate is like all the way up here in terms of just value. Like you don't spend anything on it.
Yep.
Converting it is like the easiest thing in the world.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Like we just got a referral the other day, which again I'm pretty sure that lead is really good.
Yeah, I have a conversation where today at 5:30. But the pool house is from Sean.
Oh, the pool house, right?
Yeah.
The guy, right?
Yeah, it's TJ.
TJ. So.
By the way, he's
he's super nice. I never met him, but apparently he's super nice, quick.
He's a great resource too because he's a surgeon. He's actually an anesthesiologist, but and I like here's where our relationship gets really good. So Luco, right? When I first met him, and I said this to Hugo when I first met him. I said, when I sat down to be a mortgage guy, I sat down and said, what are all the things that I hated about my mortgage guy? Right? And I said, I'm not going to do those. But here's what I'm going to do to make it easier for my realtor partners. So my routine, like I made a living on grinding every day. Like get up in the morning, I get up in the morning, role play.
100%.
Right? And then 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock, don't talk to me, don't come near me, I'll kill you because I'm prospecting. I'm making outbound calls. Well, nothing has really changed because on Mondays, I call him up and I say, hey, did you work or play this weekend? Is there anybody you need me to talk to? So I'm almost like a mini accountability call for him or my other partners.
That's good.
Tuesdays, I'm calling Luco, who is the person we're in the deal with. And I'm saying, hey, Luco, just want to let you know, we're heading for a smooth and flawless closing. You got any questions? By the way, is there anybody else that, that Hugo and I can help that you're talking to? Because obviously when you're getting married, what do you talk about for like the 6 months before you actually sign off? Everybody asking you about the wedding.
Yeah.
When you're buying a house or you're building a house, what are they talking to you about for 12 months? Building a house.
Yeah, most people are like, if your friend's getting something, the friend group, more than one's typically
You're
getting
open
something.
discussion.
Right.
Everybody's having an opinion about it.
So instead of just talking to him, we talk to the attorney, we talk to the architect, we talk to the insurance guy, talk to the title guy. Anybody who's involved in the deal, I'm asking them for more business for you and I to work on, because that's where the relationship came from. And then on Wednesdays, you know how you're classic mentoring, right? Call your past customers every 90 days, right? Hey, how you doing? Just want to let you know, we just want to check in with you, see what's going on. Hey, right now your rate is blah, blah, blah. By the way, while I got you, it's Fords, right? Family, occupation, recreation, desires. By the way, is there, family's doing great. Our work is great. That's fantastic. You playing golf? Yeah, great. Hey, by the way, while I got you, are you thinking about buying another house or doing anything with the house you have? Well, want to do an addition. Why don't I do a chat with me, you and Hugo, and I'll get up. And so basically what I'm doing is throwing him back into the mix because he may have forgot and I'll explain what I call drifting. He may have forgot or he drifted away from.
Happens all the time.
Right? Yeah. Your top of mind, if you will.
Yeah.
So, and this goes back to, on Thursdays, what I do is you send me Tanya, and said, hey, Tanya's going to do something. So Tanya may not be ready, but what I do is, if she's somebody I pre-approved or pre-qualified, there's somebody who can buy a house and somebody who could do business with you. So what do? On Thursdays, I call them up, say, hey, how you doing? Just want to let you know, here's what's happening with the market. Here's what's happening. Like the guy in Westfield, who was going to get the permits, Peter.
Yeah.
Right? Peter, I send Peter. I've been talking to Peter since it's probably almost 9 months.
Peter's Westfield, right by college.
And he was getting in permits, right? So finally, and I've been sending him things like, hey, the Fed's going to move the rate, blah, blah, blah. You should, And really what I'm doing is anybody who's pre-approved or looking, I'm following up with them every week. And if I hear like him say, yeah, that's great, or, and I'll say, hey, have you talked to your borrower? Have you talked to your realtor? Or no, I haven't talked to them or haven't heard from you. I'll actually re-chime you in a text and re-engage you, because what happens is if they don't hear from you because you're just busy and you're not making a decision, so that he kind of puts you on the back burner. My job is to keep you warm. Like when you cook a frog, you don't cook the frog in boiling water. You don't throw them in because they jump out. You put them in you put them in like cold water and then turn the heat up a little bit. Let them swim around.
Really, how you do it?
Yeah. Because if you threw them in hot water,
you just jump out.
They'll jump out.
Oh, that's smart.
I'd never boil a frog. So I'm
like,
it's a long, tedious process.
My top 10 things
so
to eat.
boiling frogs is like, it's literally, but anyway, that guy Peter, all of a sudden he came back to me and he was like, oh man, I got to talk to you this week. I finally got the approvals, and you're right, rates are going to come down. I go, you should talk to Hugo, make sure that the cost didn't go up or go down. You never know.
Yeah. Which they did. We're just waiting on his CDs so I can see.
Yeah. So my whole.
So what's the? I don't want to cut you off, but what's like the biggest pressure point that you guys see in clients? Like whether it's from you on the sales side or you from the mortgage and lending side. Like what pressure point is like the more
we just hit it. Creating urgency.
Really?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think. Yeah, that, and I think the other piece too is sometimes when you talk to people, like when we discussed a program about, getting 98% of the cash back, right? Which means that the people are pretty much just buying the land with the approved plans right from under us, and we're going to build it. So we have a pre-negotiated price, right? Pre-negotiated total price, right?
Now you get paid as a builder as opposed to you're basically bankrolling the whole thing and have the risk on the table.
An investor.
The challenge there was, right?
So speculative.
The challenge there was, does the person buying it want to float the note the entire time, right? And the way I try to explain it to them is saying, hey, like, yeah, you're floating the note, right? But number one, you're getting the home for under market value, right? Because at that point, we were passing on whatever our cost savings were in interest payments to them. Yep. And then you're not paying down an extravagant amount, but nonetheless, you're paying down some principal. So you're walking in with instant equity, right? It's just that you're going to have to float that note. And a lot of the conversations that I had, I just felt like it just didn't click for the people. And I was like, no, this makes sense, right? I'm giving you $100,000 off the house, right? Because now we're not floating that note that whole time. We're freeing up cash flow for ourselves, but you're going to have to make the monthly payment. Like, well, I don't want to make the monthly payments. I'm like, all right, I get it. Don't kick me in my throat just yet. Just understand, right? Yeah. You're getting $100,000 savings. She's like, yeah, but I'm spending $70,000 in interest payments. I'm like, yeah, but in that $70,000, it's not all interest. You are paying down principal as well. So let's say in 9 months you paid down $15,000 in principal,
so
give
you
or
really
take.
Got $115,000.
Right now you got that's what I'm saying. So it's just. Sometimes the understanding of that financial aspect of it is where like it doesn't click.
So what's the pressure?
So when it comes back to me and that situation comes back to me, the first thing I'll say is, listen, Matt, obviously, how much are you paying in rent right now, by the way? $3,000. Mm-hmm. Okay, so $3,000 times zero, you're a smart guy. How much is zero? How much is like $3,000 times zero? Zero. So all the money you pay toward interest on a loan and all the money you pay toward up to $10,000 in property taxes is tax deductible. Were you aware of that? Obviously, if you're buying building $1 million house, your tax rate is 38%. Mm-hmm. So even if you wrote a check for $20,000 for the payments, what's interesting is it's a forced savings program. It's almost like you're going to get back $7,500 back from Uncle Sam at the end of the year because all the money you paid was toward interest on the loan and or the taxes on the house. And here's the best part: when you close first,
I guess
number one, you're controlling your interest rate. Mm-hmm. You're controlling your acquisition price. And I always say to people is marry the house, date the rate. Mm-hmm. The price that you pay for the house doesn't change unless you sell it. But what will change is the interest rates. And right now, we're projecting the interest rates are going to come down anywhere between 75 basis points to 1.5.
Okay.
Even if they're half right, let's say it comes down 1%. 1% on $1 million loan, that's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But what's interesting is, here's the catch is, when the interest rate comes down, which way do prices go? Up.
I mean,
what's interesting is now.
How much up can they go?
Like, I'm not sure when this is rolling out, this particular episode, but what's interesting is we are in a golden opportunity. I can't say that enough right now.
It is September 24th.
So right now, between now and about the next 90 days, we're still in the rumor. Mm-hmm. The real estate business is a very inefficient market. And even though the Fed rate came down 50 basis points, right? Mm-hmm. But my phone blew up because people were like, well, how come mortgage rates went up?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, they're forecasting that the economy may not be as good as it was, and the banks had already built in
they had baked that
50 basis points into the margins ahead of the announcement.
Yeah,
So when those rates do come down and the prices do go back up, and we still have 3 buyers for every 1 house, those prices are going to take off like a rocket. So we could either sell you the house now and you can close and carry it and get the discount and get the tax write-off and all that stuff, or if you want to wait, that's fine. We're going to charge you the extra $100 that we would have to carry the house for. Plus, that market went up 8% last year. By the way, it went up 8% when rates were going up 1%.
Yeah.
Which way do you think that price? What do you think that price is going to do when rates go down 1%?
Yeah.
It's going to go up twice as fast. So that means that I'm going to probably on $1 million house, I'm going to charge you the $100,000 for the carrying cost. Plus, I'm going to charge you another $160,000 because that's going to be what the house is going to be worth when you go to close.
Yeah.
Which one of the? Do you want to buy it at 9? Or do you want to buy it at 1.7? Mm-hmm. Or I'm sorry, one
whatever.
1, 2,
yeah,
1,
much
2.
higher, much higher.
Yeah, 1, 2. Which one of those makes sense?
Yeah, I mean,
It's funny. It's funny that we're having this conversation because I just thought about it, and I'm not going to throw names out there because again, 5:30 call today. is the person that I was just describing is the same person that he's spoken to as well already before.
Really?
Yeah. I can't say the names
All right.
because they're still
They're still in the guest zones.
yeah. They're
Oh, well, I think I know which one it is.
yeah. So it's I just thought I'm like, wait a minute,
They
why
go by
is this
initials?
person
They go-
not using U.S. Bank? Or why didn't we just? I'm in my head. I'm processing. I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
So
We've spoken
financing
to
is
this
the
person.
biggest pressure point, is what
It's
I'm
not
hearing.
always the biggest pressure point,
Or it's
but
just the knowledge of understanding the
Yeah, I think
financing.
it's the lack of knowledge financially when it comes to that specific. Because again, I don't want to degrade people and say they're not financially.
You're an idiot.
Yeah, like
it's
when it comes to that.
question. When you're asking what is the pressure point, is it they've already decided that they're going to buy they're going to either build a house or renovate a house?
Yeah, maybe
that
every step.
person.
Yeah, let's say they know they want to do it. Obviously, they can afford it. Let's exclude income or people that
Take everything out.
Yeah, just not dependent on that. Just someone's looking to buy
It's the same answer that everybody has. It's lack of knowledge.
knowledge. Maybe then it shifts from knowledge on financing to knowledge on the construction / process.
Somebody that's going to, my background, and we talked about this a little bit, is neurolinguistic programming, right? Is the psychology of selling. People are either analytical, drivers, expressives, or amiable. So the amiable is, oh my God, make everybody happy. The people that are going to build a house, why would somebody build a house? They want control. Control people are typically drivers and analytical.
Okay.
So what drives an analytical and a driver is two things. Most people move away from pain. 80% of people move away from pain. 20% move toward pleasure. The guy who's moving toward pleasure, he doesn't care about the financing. He doesn't care about anything because he's got more money in the bank. He knows what to do with. That's the only reason why he's more worried about it. He's the guy. Remember when you were a kid? You remember you were a kid in high school or in like college, and you're on the beach and your buddy loses his job, and he's like, "Hey, you know what? I'll wait till the end of the summer." That's the moving toward pleasure. The guy who is, I lost my job. Oh my God, I got to go back to the house and try to go get my resume. That's the person moving toward pain, which is the vast majority, unless you had a boatload of cash in the bank, right? So when you're dealing with that customer, the question is always going to be is, what are the numbers? Once you get your arms around the numbers keep people from making a decision, by the way. So you got to get them excited. So what he does is, what Hugo's job is, sell them on the dream. Sell them on a house, sell them on a house, sell them on a house. My job when he sends them to me is sell them on a house, sell them on a house, sell them on a house. Oh, by the way, here's how we're going to do it. Sell them on a house, sell them on a house. By the way, here's how much you need. Sell them on a house, sell them on a house. By the way, here's how much we're going to need for the first deposit. So,
And do the customers always jive with that and appreciate that? And how does that
the customer doesn't even know we're doing it on purpose. It's just my presentation style. But yes, as evidenced by Luco.
Yeah.
I talked to him for an hour. I met with him. Took him out to lunch, had a drink, and I said, "Here's what it looks like." He goes, "Okay, that makes sense." And he, by the way, he's the numbers guy for a huge company. So once you put it on paper and you show him
How it makes sense,
Here's the step by step. Here's what it looks like. I mean, how many kids you got?
3.
3. The first one, you remember? Like, oh my God, we're going to the doctor.
Yeah, I remember
Right?
the
The
other day.
doctor said, like, you were 9 months away, and the doctor said, "Come see me in a month." Then you got about 6 months away. Come see me in about 3 weeks. Then you get down to like the wire, and it's like 3 weeks before you're going to have this kid. Come see me every other day. Then it's the week of. Come see me every day. Right? That's the way our phone works for that conversation. Remember what I said though is I call you every week and say, "Here's where we're at in the process." An offensive phone call is so much easier than a defensive phone call.
Oh yeah, always.
So what we're doing is we're future pacing the customer.
And for their benefit, obviously. That's,
Right.
Again, like a client we're talking about now, let's say Luca or whatever. Again,
He just happens to be a really good example. But
but he benefit greatly. Again, not from only just using us to build, not only experiencing like the whole process between our collaboration, but just kind of the financing, the numbers behind it. Obviously, he's a numbers guy and he works in numbers. So once you put it in front of him, it's like, okay, this makes sense, right? So it's always catering to that and making sure that we touch on the pressure points and the process behind that, because at the end of the day, it's very important for us to, always have the customer in mind. Yeah, we're trying to sell because we're a business. We need to make money, right? But we're not going to pressure anybody to building a home or doing anything with a home. We want to make sure that we're always thinking about the client first and what's going to benefit them. But the problem is sometimes these clients are so, lost in just
in the process.
the process, but also like the thing that they may focus on. Like, you tell me as a customer that that doesn't know numbers, you have to pay the interest. Automatic. It's like, no, I'm not going to pay the interest. Like, that's crazy. Why would I eliminate your risk as the builder and pay more for the house? But then you start to explain that, like, you get this tax savings, you get the house for cheaper, the market you get more.
Let's just break it down.
Yeah,
You got to get a little bit deeper.
Correct.
And I think at the end of the day, like, everything in sales, especially when it comes to like pre-selling or selling the vision, is you're either pitching it as an investment or as a cost. That's how they're going to see it, right? It's either a cost or an investment, right? Most people see everything as a cost, right? They don't look at it as an investment. That's number one. Number two, the presentations that I do, the conversations that I have, it all starts with, what do you want? Like, explain to me why we're on this call, right? I know why I'm here, right? But explain to me why, because they're pretty much going to tell me everything, right? Here's what we've been doing. They're going to go immediately to pain. Yeah. We've been looking at 1,000 homes. They're all this. The prices are this. Well, everything that's wrong. And then I go through probably 15 to 30 minutes of conversation about what it's like to build a home. Not specifically with Prawdzik, just in general, right? Because the statement holds true everywhere, right? Like, it's not like find the land. Okay, it's not just Prawdzik land. It's everybody's land, right? And then we have the whole conversation. We talk about like the customization, the modification, getting what you want, designing how you want, right? It could be 3,000 square feet, it could be 2,000 square feet, it could have 6 bedrooms, it could have 3 bedrooms. It's whatever you want at the end of the day. You pick the paint colors, you pick the siding, I don't care. You get everything. You get the choice and everything. And then you get to the price all the way at the end. Mm-hmm. Because if you start, well, here's what I've learned. And I've done sales for years. If you start with price first, now you're like digging yourself out of a hole. And I'm not saying that we're unaffordable. I'm just saying that the minute you say the price, if it doesn't align with what they're envisioning, you've lost them almost all the time. You've lost all communications to that brain across from you. Like, it's gone. Yeah. They're just like, he said this, he said this, he said this, like,
it's the only thing I remember is the number.
Yeah, that's it, right? But now when you explain it to them, and I just had a conversation yesterday, and we were discussing it, and they have your contact info, right? And we were having a conversation about it, and they were about anywhere between $200,000 to potentially $400,000 off, right? Based on ultimately what they would want, because it really comes down to the land.
Of how much was the house total?
So they wanted to be between 1 to 1.1, and they want 3,000 square feet.
Right.
Right. So, and I said, listen, 3,000 square feet, you typically need 10,000 square foot lot, if not a quarter of an acre, depending on where you're building.
Right.
The cost of those are $500,000-$600,000 if you're lucky, because you want to be along the train line. Right. You want to be in a good school system. Right. It's like, listen, it's like at the end of the day, but then here's how I go back, right? In this conversation, I said, let me ask you a question. Why 3,000 square feet? Like, where did this number come from? Right. Because I've had people personally that they say 3,000 square feet, and I walk them into a 2,400 square foot house, and I'm going, oh, the layout works perfectly. This is more than enough. Mm-hmm. Okay, so 600 square feet at X, Y, and Z of what we charge to build, that's a big number, right? It can shift, right? But at some point when you get to that number, then you're listening. The whole time you're listening, you're having the conversations, and I'm like, okay, well, this is the number. That's a little bit more. Okay, well, here's what you have to understand, right? We're in a challenging market, right? There's no more land, right? Right? They're not making more land, right? So if you want to buy land, you have to buy it off somebody, and the price is what they're asking, right? You can possibly negotiate, but if it's really inexpensive, that means that there's a lot of site work to do. Like a ton.
There's something.
There's something going on, right? I always tell people, I said, if there's vacant land that's flat, minimal trees, test the soil. Right. There's got to be something going on. Why hasn't this been built on prior?
Who's been buried there?
Yeah, right?
Or what?
Where's
or what?
Right, or what? But at the end of the day, I always tell
gas station.
So now so the call for yesterday, the example was, they're like, hey, like, we really have to rethink our expectations after the call. Like, they were very positive about it. Like, hey, I have to rethink our expectations because, we wanted to head in this direction, but we can definitely extend our budget, especially with rates coming down. We just don't know how far. And I said, I think first step is really us you guys reviewing everything that we have to offer and then discussing like going to tour one of these properties so you could physically see the space, right? And right now it sucks for us because we don't have anything to show.
So it's like education. Like that's the number one thing from what you're talking. It seems like educating the customer, which is obviously what we try our best to do, and then cost engineering it for them, saying, "Hey, why 3,000? You can probably achieve what you want in 2,400 or 2,600, and be perfectly fine and save a boatload of money."
And I've also had tons of conversations about people like, oh, well, we don't want to buy it. Can you guys buy it and build? I said, yeah, we can, but the cost is going to be substantially more. You know, and at least minimum 6 figures, just because of the holding costs and the closing costs that we're going to accrue. I'm like, if you can avoid that, do that. Don't let us buy it because it's not going to make more sense. But if you're willing to pay more, then that's a little bit different. But
well, there's like what you're talking about is a value ladder, right?
Yeah.
And there's either there's either you do it, we do it together, or we do the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's either you do it, we do it, or done for you solution. And you can offer any one of those.
Oh yeah.
We typically do the full solution.
Right.
Like we're a one-stop shop most always.
But what I'm getting at is like if he says to you it's 1.2 and you're like expecting 1.1 or 900, all of a sudden you're like blown away.
Yeah.
But if he goes through a list of 32 different things that nobody else told you,
It's education.
and says, hey, this is normally 50 grand, we do it at 26. This is normally 35,000, we do it at 10. This is normally this, we do it at this. Normally this whole package, if we built this house, if you go to see Tom Jones or our competitors, it's 1.5. For us to do it though, we're going to do it for you for $995. Yeah. Now all of a sudden, $995 or whatever that number is looks totally different. And it really comes down to
Plus free shipping and handling.
right.
Listen,
Rust, dust, and
but he's right.
underproofing.
But at a certain point, like you gotta transition the accountability to them, right?
Yeah.
And here's what I always tell people when they say, "Is this a realistic price for what I want?" I said, "Well, let's just reverse engineer. The cost of construction is going to be X, Y, and Z, right? Then you have permits, you have engineering, architecturals, the surveyor is going to have to come in, right? If it's vacant land, you're going to have the sewer tap fee, you're going to have a couple different fees. So let's just associate X dollars. That means like the conversation that I had yesterday, for what they wanted, I'm like, it leaves you with roughly $280,000 to find a 10,000 to a quarter of an acre land in a train line neighborhood with good school system. I said, and then before I even said anything, they're like, yeah, that's unrealistic.
Yeah, it's champagne taste on a Budweiser.
There you go, right? Yeah. Like, and again, people shop based on not the rate, not the price of the home. They shop on monthly payments.
Yeah.
This is what the monthly payment, right? People are becoming
what is that? Credit consumer market, whatever.
Well, I get the phone call all the time. I got it on the way here. Hey, we're looking at the house and it's gonna probably be, we're coming to New Jersey and taxes are gonna be this and the house is going to be between 800 and $1 million. What's the interest rates? And the guy's a physician, and I go, do you have insurance or like malpractice insurance? He goes, yeah. I go, you understand how that works, right? He goes, yeah. If you make a mistake, I go, me giving you a rate right now is like practicing malpractice because rates are changing not every year, not every quarter. They're changing like 3 hours a day, 3 times a day. I get a rate change. Legitimately get a rate change 3 times a day. It may stay the same, but the likelihood is probably not. It may vary anywhere between the 16th or last week.
A little bit, yeah.
Could have been a half. But for me to give you numbers based on hypotheticals, I always say to people, I go, my goal is always the same. The lowest rate is going to come with the highest cost, typically. When you're working with a bank, we can actually make it so it's not as aggressive because we're giving you the money at cost. When you go to those other companies, though, that's what they're going to get paid on that, and they get paid on a commission. I get paid by the bank. And so that kind of diffuses that. And then when they say, okay, well, we're going to go walk and we're going to go talk to Hugo, and they'll say, what price range should we look at? And I'll say, listen, you're qualified up to $1 million. You may not be comfortable, and then the next question is always the same. Well, what does that look like? And I'm like, here's what this payment looks like if you buy in Union County, New Jersey. If you bought in Morris County, it's going to be this much. If you bought in Essex County or Bergen County, it's going to be this much.
Because of taxes.
Because if I sell you a house in Bergen County, the taxes are twice as much as they are in Morris County. But if I go to Union County, like if you go to our town, we have some of the lowest taxes in Morris County and Florham Park. If you go to the next town over in Chatham, taxes go up 28% for the same house. So and people are like, well, I don't understand. And I'm like, listen, let's do it this way. exactly what he said 2 seconds ago. What is the monthly payment you're comfortable with? And I always, because I sold cars, I'll say, if you go, what's the monthly payment? You'll say $5,000. And I'll say, great. Not more than how much though? Well, what do you mean? Well, if I found you the perfect house on the perfect lot and the perfect, it's got the little fence in the front, you could bring your dog and your parakeet and you walk your kids down to school, would you pay a little bit more for that? Yes. Okay, so not more than how much? Well, probably $7,500.
Damn, that's a big delta.
Right? So whatever it is. So, but by the way, inevitably, if the guy tells you $6,000, how much do you end up at? 75. 75. You really, legitimately, you end up at 72.
Money always comes
Yeah,
forward.
but, because at the end of the
Tony.
day,
Everybody's going to start. Everybody's going to start here.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if you ask anybody, like anything, like if you offer, let's say you wanted to buy that camera right there, that camera, and they're used, how much are you going to want to pay for it? The lowest possible.
Give me
right?
a dollar.
They're going to want to
I'll
sell
give you
for the
my goat
highest
and a pig.
possible. Nothing's changed, right? So you're going to say, hey, I'll offer you $500. You may end up at $750, and that happens because they're going to come in and say, hey, $5,000. Then we're going to see homes that are at $5,000, and they're all going to be missing something, right? Then you start crouching and crouching and crouching.
And
It's
then
almost
I get the phone call.
Yeah,
What can I afford up to?
yeah. So listen, sales, it never changes. The mindset of the consumer is always the same, regardless of how big or how small the investment is. I'm telling you, that holds true every single time.
I get it.
It'll be the smallest thing. It'll be like, oh, you're going to go buy a refrigerator. I just need a standard refrigerator. Okay, but you want the water and ice on the inside or the water on, like, I like it on the outside. Ironically, the higher end companies do it on the inside, right? Like, which I'm like, I don't want to open my door to get water. I just want to get water, right? So I'm a completely different type of person, but people are willing to pay more to have the option hidden, which is okay. Okay, but do you want it to have auto-filling options? Okay, well, that's another $200, right? So now it's what they do in sales. This is what you're taught to do. You're taught to sell everything. I mean, I'm going to paint the picture, right? And this is everything. But the price for everything is up here, and your price is here. Now, you're either going to meet in the middle and only get some options, or you're just going to say, you know what? I feel like a completely different person if I don't have that option. So I'm just going to go with that option. And that's what happens in real estate, the same thing, because people will come in, be like, listen, $5,000 is a very healthy budget for somebody. That's a big mortgage. But it doesn't go as far as when rates were at 3.625, clearly, right? Like, even my home, it was just, I was talking to my wife. My wife's like, hey, maybe we should downsize and buy the house that went for sale across the street, the little green one with the front porch. Really nice house. Small. It was like 2,000 square feet, but it was very nicely done. The family moved back out of state. And I said, if we bought that and had the same mortgage,
Same payment.
my payment would be 1.5 times more on that house than it would be on this house. So why would I even do that?
Yeah.
Like that, I'm like, we can move, but that's just not the right move. Like, just not that right there, right? So,
By the way, we just moved in.
Yeah.
We didn't finish painting.
yeah, I mean, listen, we cleared the 2 years for capital gain. So at this point, it's whatever she wants to do.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just educating the consumer. That's a big pressure point, and making sure the financing and the whole, like you said, there's a value ladder, right? We either do nothing, we do a middle, or we do everything, right? And we try to provide that do everything by having partners like U.S. Bank, having partners with architects, having partners with engineers, obviously being the in-house builder, having potentially the land that you want, potentially even helping you find the land that you want, having plans in place that you can, or having homes you can tour. There's everything from under the sun, one-stop shop.
The simplest conversation that I have with borrowers a lot, like I talked to one of the people he referred to me, and the guy said, I'm thinking about so-and-so. And he goes, I'm going to interview my brother, sister, cousin, does whatever. And I go, can I tell you the problem that presents? And they're like, well, I don't understand. And I'm like, when you go to Hugo and his team, and you say, I'm going to build in this town, they've already done 3 projects in that town, and they know the cast of characters on the team. And they know it's going to take 3 weeks to get the approvals here, or 1 week over here. They know that this guy is at the town. He's going to be a pain in the butt, but we know how to deal with him. And it becomes a matter of, the way that I position you as being the go-to builder is you've already done projects and vetted out the team. It's like, our kids play lacrosse, right? Every year, the high school lacrosse team changes because the seniors go away and the freshmen come in, right? And now all of a sudden the team has to learn how to play again. I'm one of those guys where I'm old school, I'm lazy. When I was a realtor, I would do 75 transactions a year. I worked a 4.5-day week, and I would spend the other half a day in the car going to either Vermont or down the shore with a 6-pack of beer and smoking a cigar, making phone calls. And the reason why I could do it was because I made it a point to work in a very niche markets. So I knew what I was talking about. I could do it in my sleep. And why one of our partnership and why I always recommend you guys is because I say to them all the time, I go, they've already vetted out all the holes. They figured out who not to work with. They figured out what contractors they're going to write checks to and they're going to disappear. And I go, here's the beauty of working with us as your finance people is we own 80% of the transaction. We're going to be your coach. We're not going to let you get in trouble. And by the way, as your coach, we're going to tell you who else plays on the team. And because you guys are actually approved by US Bank as both as ground up builder or renovation, that means that you got the stamp of approval and you've been vetted. And we don't have to worry about them. They're on the team. They're on the varsity team. They've been in the team for a while. They know what they're doing. We don't have to worry about that one. But if you bring in, like, how many times you get the person that says, I work at blah, 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 and I have a corporate attorney that's going to do the closing for my house.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Like, instead of the guy who's the local guy in town, I'm thinking to myself, that's a train wreck waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
when it comes to real estate transactions, if you're not using a real estate attorney, I'm just kind of like,
I don't know about all that.
Yeah, I'll send you about 3 or 4 different good ones.
10 years ago, I wouldn't even do a transaction without an attorney. Until, like, nowadays, you have title companies that are basically acting as an attorney.
Yeah.
But up until I would say it's been 3 years since I've had actually done a real estate transaction. I wouldn't even touch a real estate transaction unless it had an attorney because I didn't want the liability.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, I get it. And I get why people do it. But at the end of the day, it's like, you're, and here's what I always tell them. I said, if you're going to use somebody who doesn't do real estate full time, you're using somebody, you're literally, it's like calling me and I was the realtor who just did this part time. Would you hire me? The answer is no, you wouldn't hire me. Right. But you're going to hire an attorney, the one that's to protect you legally. Right. You're going to use somebody who's
person.
Yeah, that's what I tell them. I said, listen, the worst case scenario, not to get too off track, but the worst case scenario is you want to call them because you're being issued TOE with a breach and he's in court defending somebody on a criminal charge. Right. He or she, right? Like, that's not going to be a great feeling for you, right? And then you're going to call me and I legally can't give you advice. Like, I would love to, but I legally can't. I could lose my license because of it.
I can tell you what's probably going to happen, but I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen.
Yeah, so it's like, listen, at the end of the day, I think that we have a good thing going. I think that we both refer each other clients. And the more you talk, the more I'm trying to think of who that client potentially is that you're talking about. And I think I know who it is. I think his brother built a home or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I'm just
that
like...
particular situation, I'm like, dude, it's going to cost you more money. And he goes, why do you say
Not
that?
even money.
The time, money,
time and stress.
Yeah, the time you're not going to get back. And his brother, he's like, oh, my brother's done it before. And I'm like, yeah, how does he feel? And the first thing he said to me is he'll never do it again.
Exactly. Because construction business is a pain in the ass. So let people that know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's not a part-time thing. So I go there every day after work.
The magnitude of scale is, you're offering product that is slightly higher than your competitors at the same cost as your competitors because you could do scale. Yeah. You have 4 projects, like
we have a process and system in place. Don't use as the customer, my vision is use it. Like
right, but let me break it down for a customer to visualize. When you say a process, I think of it as okay, he's gonna save me money. He says he's gonna save me money. How do I know? Mm-hmm. So here's how you know.
Yeah, they could price it out.
Not even that.
We're literally the most competitive.
Right, but you're telling me that. When you telling me that means absolutely nothing.
Oh, of course, I'm going to pat myself in the back.
When someone asks us for a price, 24 hours, you got a price.
No, but
or sooner.
Let me illustrate.
Well, depending.
Let me
as long as it's
illustrate
not
what
custom.
I'm talking about. This is a different way of presenting it. So instead of saying, "Hey, we're the best guys out there. We get the best price. We're going to give you a number tomorrow," all that stuff. Instead of saying all that, show them and this is what we used to do is when I was doing renovations, I would say. The reason why I could sell it to you cheaper is I got 3 of the same kitchen set. When I bought the stainless steel package for the GE kitchen and the stainless steel and the GE profile, the guy gave it to me at 25% off because I bought 3 of them in 3 packages at once.
That's funny you said.
And I put them in the garage.
How many did we just order?
We just ordered 9.
Well, but that
I literally got the monogram for like the price of nothing.
But that goes
Don't
back to.
say that because then we're gonna have to sell the home cheaper.
Right. But that goes back to Well, how can, I don't understand it. Well, this is why I can. So when you illustrate to somebody that's not in the business and not a builder, and you say, here's why I can do this at a better price, and here's why we can give you a higher quality for the same price as your brother, he can't even compete with us because we bought 9 kitchens in one clip. And we're saving 30% on.
By the way,
we're passing it along.
This whole discussion is about to magnify with what I just found out the last week and kind of solidified yesterday. But that's a whole nother discussion. But yes, that's true. Again, we're very competitive. But
listen, I just tell people, I said, listen, the reason why, because I have conversations sometimes when I finally give them the price, they're like, oh wow, that's way better than what I expected.
Exactly.
And I'm like, yeah, because we don't believe that we have to like beat people over the head and make $1 gajillion off everybody. Like we're reasonable.
TJ's a perfect example of it.
Our process is very efficient.
Yeah.
Like I was watching it. I'm going to close out with this because again, we got to wrap it up. But Jeff Bezos from Amazon said it was like one of the 2000 videos. Like 2000, he took it was like a news video that he took in 2000 or 2001. He's like, the inefficiency of the company is not the consumer's problem. So we cannot charge them just because we don't know our shit and we can't do our shit right.
So
right?
true.
So it's just the fact. It's, hey, like this is our price. Are we as efficient as we can be? No, because if we were, we could probably even knock that price by 5%, right? But this is our price. We're as efficient as possible. We're competing against the average Joe Schmo builder, the average small company, construction company has like what? Him, a designer, a project manager. We run a team of almost 15, 16 people. Like, think about how many people you're going to touch. Think about how many minds you have working on your home. Yes, they're working on other homes because obviously we're a company, right? We do and build homes. We're builders.
And they're all experts.
Yeah, but we're all experts in what we do. Hugo, sales. Nothing related to sales is touched by anybody else. Marketing, that's run by marketing. Operation, finance, and so on and so forth, right? It's construction. So very important for a consumer to understand that because that's how we're able to stay competitive. That's how we're able to build the team, implement US Bank into our processes, make sure that the process is streamlined, learn from our mistakes, obviously always kind of have that constant meeting rhythm and constantly making sure we implement new changes to the process to make it better for the consumer so they get the better price, so we can stay competitive, so we can build more homes, right? So with that, anyway, any final remarks, you guys? I know
you just wrapped it all up in a ball.
Exactly, right? So again, I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Sean Salas, again, from US Bank, our great new partner that we're going to be very, very growing very rapidly with. So that's the end for episode 12 of Moments of Construction. And until next time.